Hey, what's up? I'm Regina, and today we're going to start off with a very quick lesson in setting up a project in Revit. It's not as complicated as it sounds. For the most part, Revit actually does a really nice job of making this rather simplistic. So to start off with, just open Revit. You'll notice right off the bat in the opening screen, you might, if you've never used it before, get some weird little pop-up dialog. For all of the videos that I do, we use the architectural templates. But just going forward, all of your created families or component families like furniture or specialized things like trusses will show up in the bottom. And any of your actual full-blown projects, homes or commercial structures will show up here in models. Now, where you'll find most of the stuff is over here in the left-hand panel. We're going to start with a brand new model. My default templates that show up have changed in the new 2024 edition of Revit, but I don't use either one of these. I've never used the drop down. I prefer to use the general default template. The multidiscipline template is fine as well, or you can use a residential default if you want. I prefer using the plain old default because it has less stuff already loaded in and I can load things as I need. So once you get there, if this is also not showing as a side note, you need to download the families, which I will link down in the description below. So go ahead and hit open, and then we're going to hit OK. Now, as you can see, everything is lined up. A lot of times, Revit's default has this project browser down at the bottom left in these panels. I prefer to keep them on either side. It makes it easier, especially in like a commercial project where you'll have 5, 6 to 10 floor plans, sometimes more, with their ceiling plans, elevations, sections, all of that. So this gets very, very long. So having it over here just means that I can see things more easily. But to start off with, we're going to change our detail level from coarse to fine. It just makes it a little bit easier. I also like to change my graphics display to shaded. It's a personal preference. When I'm working on floor plans, I will change them back out for print levels. But in general, having different colors and being able to identify different things just makes it a little bit easier. The other thing that I like to start out with doing is going into one of my elevations. Doesn't matter which one, just pick one. And for this project, there are 2 levels already in here, but I don't really want 10-foot ceilings. I want 8-foot ceilings because this is going to be a cabin. So I'm going to change this, and this is going to say ceiling. It's going to be a single story cabin is what this tutorial is going to center around, that I will show you in a minute. Also needing to create a roof line elevation or level. So under the architecture panel, under datum is levels. So I'm going to go ahead and add one more level in here. And this top level is going to be the actual roof, which I prefer to capitalize, even though I didn't on the ceiling. We're going to hit yes. And this is going to sit at 12 feet. So the ceilings are going to be at 8. The roof is going to be at 12. The ceiling also is where the top of the walls will sit, just as an FYI. So do keep that in mind when you're putting in your levels. You can also, within the level marker, uncheck, so it will not make a plan view over here. I occasionally will do like half levels, which will not have a plan view. If you find that you did that and you actually come to find out need a level, you can go into into plan views. It's under view in the create, go to plan views, go to floor plan, and there would be a list of the levels that do not currently have a view. Of course, we don't have that because we don't need to deal with that. The other thing that I'm going to add is one more level, but I am not going to make a plan view for that one. We're going to go ahead and make this. This is going to be a BOF, which stands for bottom of footer. And this is going to be below at a foot. When you hover over these, if you have this weird overlap, which happens a lot, just click on the level itself, and a little add elbow will pop up. Just click that, and adjust your level to where you can actually see it. Notice it does not move the level line, it just moves the text. And that's also how you can distinguish between what has a floor plan, what does not. So plan viewed, no plan view. I don't need a plan view for the footer at the moment, considering I can drop either the level 1 or even the site plan down to be able to see it. If needed, I can also create one for this. Now I'm also going to change this. This is going to be ground level. And yes, on the dialog. Depending on the project, I will click do not show again, because if I'm changing stuff, I know that I'm actually doing it on purpose. So once that is done, we have that all set. Let's go ahead and take a look at our floor plan. So this is a very simplistic cabin. It was used in a previous class of mine, so this is actually not my drawing. This is just a template drawing that's used in many different schools. Just as a basic practice, it was initially designed for AutoCAD, but we're going to do this project using Revit and creating this project in Revit. So we have all of our dimensions, everything's already labeled for us, so we're just going to follow along. And I will, if you want this floor plan, you can screenshot it, or I can attach it in the comment section if you really do want it. I have additional notes. So my exterior walls and my wet wall, which is this wall right here, are going to be 8 inches thick. And my interior wall is going to be 6 inches thick, except for this main one. So this long wall right here is actually the primary load-bearing wall for this cabin. And I didn't put a note because I know that that is the case. When you look at this drawing, you can tell that this is going to be a load-bearing wall. So we're going to make that 8 inches thick just for some additional support in there. So let's go ahead and get started. I like to start off doing drawings with the foundation. So we're going to go into floor. Now, right now it's set at a generic 12 inches, which is fine because we're going to create our own. So we're going to do 6 inches slab on grade. And we are going to make this cabin a slab on grade. Once we're in the edit assembly menu, again, you just go to structure, go to edit. This is where I edit everything. We're going to, it's at a foot thick. We're going to change this to 6 inches thick. We're going to make this concrete. Now I'm also going to set this up as if I were to put this into Twinmotion. So find your concrete, go to edit, duplicate. I'm going to do floor dash concrete slab. I'm going to do a Control A, highlight it, and do a Control C. Over in appearance, change this information out and just Control V and paste that in there. What this does for Twinmotion, because Twinmotion relies both on this part and on this part, I like to make these match. You don't have to, but Twinmotion needs this to be different. And if you just change the name of the regular concrete, you can't make other materials in there. Now, the other thing that I'm going to do is I like to change these grays out for their cut patterns. I also don't like the cut pattern to be that. I prefer to use dense sand for my cut. And then also check that so that it is reading there, because this is a darker gray color. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add some flooring. Now, on occasion in section views, when you're doing flooring this way, it kind of becomes a nightmare, but I will fix it in the later videos. I'll do another video on how to fix this in section view. So we're going to find wood planks. We're going to duplicate that material, floor, laminate, oak. So we're going to put a laminate flooring in here. We're going to go to appearance, Control A, Control V. And again, I don't render in Revit. I use Twinmotion for rendering. You can also use Enscape if you so choose. Both are amazing programs, but Twinmotion is my go-to. If you're using Revit to render, you can also change this out by selecting it. You can change lots of things, go into the materials and find one that you prefer. I have additional materials that I could use if I were to render in Revit, but again, I don't. The other thing we're going to change is we're going to go into the foreground graphics. Scroll all the way down, and let's see here. We want a horizontal, but we're going to make them big. And we're going to turn these to gray. And it's not, occasionally I won't do this, but let's do a diagonal up on the cut pattern, which will show in section view. So we'll go ahead and hit OK. So now we have our floor. So we have our finish. Depending on the type of floor that you're using, you may have an additional in here. So for like this would be like a substrate underneath. Oh, this also needs to be about 1/4 of an inch, which is about the thickness of most laminate. Some laminates are a lot thinner. And then I could also add, I don't think they have underlayment as a piece, but I could use a rubber to fake it and add an underlayment. But I choose not to do that. You could even bump this up to delineate that. If you really, really wanted to be like hyper accurate, of course, you can go ahead and do that. And then we're going to hit OK. You know what? Actually, one last thing. One last piece. I'm going to go back into insert and I'm going to add an actual substrate. I'm going to add sand underneath because that's a piece that is also constantly seen underneath concrete slabs. There is a bed of sand or like a gravel depending on where you live or what the code is. So let's just go ahead and add that in there because then we don't have to necessarily draw it. So let's do some dense sand, or no, let's do this one. We're going to put that there. We're going to hit OK. Yes, yes. Change this to gray. Also use this sand. Yes. Okay, appearance. And the sand I'm not going to worry about changing out because we're not going to necessarily see this if I were to render this in Twinmotion, so this can all stay. Go ahead and put that there, and we're going to do 2 inches as a sand bed. There is a later drawing with the foundation and wall details where the sand is at 2 inches thick underneath the slab. So that just saves us some time later on down the road when we're doing wall details or even sections. That looks completely fine. We're good. Good. Okay. Now, I'm going to go ahead and create a box. If you notice on plan, it's 25 feet 6 side to side and 34 feet 6 front to back. So once you make this box, you can tell that I made it too big, which is totally fine. Try and aim your drawing in between your elevation markers if you can. If it's too big, once you draw it out, that's okay. You can change it later. So with changing these dimensions, just click on one of the sides, then click the dimension that pops up on the other side, and we're going to do 34 feet 6. Revit has the awesome capability where you can input feet by themselves, put a space, and put your 6. If I'm dealing with like half dimensions or even a quarter, you can type that out by doing an additional space and putting in the fractioned dimension that is needed. I like to do it where I just put in the decimal, but everybody is different. So pick which one is easiest for you. I like to highlight it, move it a little closer to the center, and hit the check mark. The other thing that I'm going to do is we're going to go into this, change your stuff around. And if you notice when we zoom in, there we go. So you can't really see the flooring material because it's 1/4 of an inch thick. That's okay. There you go. And if you double check this, if it's not looking right, totally fine. Whatever. Okay. All right. Everything is where it belongs. Ta-da. We're good. Now, the other way that you could do flooring is leave the slab alone and do an additional floor on top with a base offset up to be above this, depending on the floor thickness. Either way is fine. You can do it both ways. Now, let's zoom back into this. And as you can see, this is a full wall, but this side comes up short, and this is short because there is a porch right here. There's a little tiny porch right on the front of the house, and this is a full wall. So let's go ahead and set up our walls. And because this is cabin, I'm going to use clapboard. So you're going to go into wall. Basic 8 inch is completely fine. You can also use the drop down and pick one that you'd prefer to use. Everybody's kind of different how they prefer to set these up. I prefer just making my own. It makes it a little bit easier. So I'm going to go with the 8-inch thickness. We're going to edit type, duplicate this, and go wall, exterior. This is going to be our exterior walls. Go into edit the structure. This is a component that you will not see in Twinmotion, so it should be softwood lumber. This should be 7.75. Oops, 0.75. 7 3/4 of an inch, because in the US nothing is a 2x4. It is not the exact dimensions anymore. We use nominal feet and inches in the US, which I think most of the world actually does. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to go up and up. We're going to add 3 pieces here. We're going to add another one coming down as the drywall. So let's do the interior piece first. We're going to use finish 2. This is going to be gypsum. So GYP. Wallboard. Totally fine. Leave it alone. You can rename this if you really want to, but I prefer to paint them if I'm going to render this out. The other thing is this should be 1/2 inch thick. Most gypsum wallboard that is used on an interior wall is 1/2 inch, or it is doubled up. The other one is the finish on the outside. We're going to go ahead and use clapboard siding and load this in. I'm not going to bother changing this. This can remain the same. We'll add the horizontal line. Doop, right there. Change this out. Totally fine. Use the render appearance. Okay. So there's that. This is going to be a membrane layer. We're going to put air in here. Air right there. This is going to stay at 0. And then this one is going to be, it should be more substrate. This should be thermal air. So it'll be set up more like this. And everybody is different how they prefer to do this part. I'm going to use a rigid insulation on mine, and it's going to be a 1/2 inch thick. And my siding is going to also be a 1/2 inch thick because it's wood siding. So there is our wall. And if we hit OK, 0 thickness must have membrane layer function. OK. Ta-da! Swap that out. All right, we're good to go. Let's go ahead and put our wall in. Like we said, you could either draw this as a box and then make your adjustments, or use the pick line, change your wall line location to exterior. And if I zoom in, you want that little dotted blue line to be on the inside, inside, and inside. Now the piece that we need to change, if we zoom in, we can see the different layers of the walls here. On this one, we know, based on this drawing, that this does not go all the way down, that it is 6 feet back. So the way that I prefer to do that is we're going to use a reference plane, use the pick line tool, change the offset to 6 feet, jump that backwards, pull these reference lines side to side because you are going to need them later. Sometimes this happens. Just grab the bubble and drag it. The other reference line that we need to add in is we got a 4'6" here, a 6 foot, and a 2 foot. So let's see here, 8 plus another 4, that's 12. So 12 feet 6 is what these are. So we're going to go ahead and offset that 12 feet 6 to get that other wall. Now, do be careful. You need to zoom in. And depending, yep, it went the wrong direction, but that's okay. That's fine. Come on, thing. It will fight back. Ugh. If it continues to do that, you can do it the opposite way. Instead of pick line, as we said, 12 feet 6. I'm going to grab the outside corner, yoink, and draw upward. And there we go. There's that line. Occasionally using pick line does kind of fight back. Now with this one, I'm going to grab this blue bubble, drag it backwards. And there we go. Now it's where it needs to be. Go back into my wall tool. Oops. Grab the corner here, drag it across to my corner here, and corner here and hit escape. Now zoom back in. You want to make sure that you have the single layer on the outside because that's our gypsum, and then the exterior piece. And there we go. Now we have the porch. You can leave these lines in place if you so choose. It is completely up to you. Now, the other thing that we need to do is we're going to make another wall. We're going to make that load-bearing wall that goes directly down the center. This is one solid piece. So we're going to make another wall type. So go back into wall. You can reuse this because this is already technically set. So go edit, duplicate interior, interior, LB. Go into here. We're going to take that membrane layer off and that substrate layer off. Come back over here. We want a GYP on this. Find our gypsum, already set to 1/2 inch because there's drywall on both sides. Boom, done, done. Now the other thing you do need to do is go back to your location line, change this to wall center, and then grab the wonderful pink center snap and draw your line. Now notice these two did not line up. They're off. So come up to align, grab the outside of the gypsum wall board here and grab your new wall's gypsum. Ah, what the? That also happens. You know what? Grab this, drag this off. Occasionally this will fight back. If there's an easier method, cool, but there's usually not. So again, go to your align tool. Once this is kind of separated, grab your original wall, grab this, good to go. Because we want these to fully line up. And there we go. Occasionally that will happen where something doesn't like to line up. We can go ahead and delete these two planes. We don't need them anymore. So now we have all of those pieces. So we have this main load bearing and we have all of our exterior walls in. Now the next wall that or next sets of walls is these right here. These interior non-load bearing walls. So we're going to go ahead and make those because those are going to be 6 inches except for this wall here, which is a wet wall. Again, that will be 8 inches in thickness to allow for the plumbing to run through it. So with that being set up, there we go. Move that out of the way. I suggest that you have 2 screens in order to look at the plans and work at the same time. So the first dimension that we're going to do is this bedroom. So we're going to start with the front bedroom here, and then we're going to work our way backwards along. So the first bedroom is 5'9" to the window, and then 6 feet to the wall midline. All of these are dimensioned properly where they go to the midline of the wall, not the edges of the window or, the edge of the wall. The only time mostly within the architectural field, when you're dimensioning, you go from the outside edge, if it's an exterior wall, to the midline of your next wall for dimensions, especially for construction sets. So you keep that in mind. So let's go ahead and put that together. We got 6 feet and 5 feet, so that should be 11 feet 9. So we're going to make a new wall because this is going to be a 6-inch wall. So we're going to hit duplicate. And I'm going to go non-load bearing. Add. Edit. This is going to change because this is a 4, so 3 3/4. It's a 2x4 is what would be used. So there we go. Good to go. Good to go. Dogs are barking in the background. Of course they are. Because why wouldn't they? I'm going to use a pick line. Hopefully this decides that it wants to work this time. We're going to go here. Go 11 feet 9. Okay. Where are you? Oop. Nope. All right. Come here, thing. So go back in. Nope. I missed a step. Hold on. 11 feet 9. And drag this side to side. Good to go. Now you can see that it is too big. Just grab the blue bubbles and pull them backwards. All right, once those are in, okay, so we got that first wall. Now we know that it potentially may not be in the right spot. So we're going to do an aligned dimension and just press tab until it grabs the front edge of the wall, come up to the center point of the wall, and it is indeed in the right spot. Next dimension is the 2'9" closet from center line to center line, but the next wall up is the wet wall, but we're going to use our load bearing wall. So we're going to do a 2'9" and adjust the mouse. There we go. Next wall up is a non-load bearing wall. And it is set at, so that's 2'9.5" and 2'8.5", but this is a bathroom. So this tub makes this bathroom a little bit funky. So let's go from the opposite side. It's the same pieces. Now, when you look at this floor plan, you can tell right off the bat that these bedrooms are the same size. So this back one with its closet is the same as this front one and its closet. So we could either draw this all by hand or use the mirrored command and grab our walls here and just change this back wall into a load or a non-load bearing wall. So let's go ahead and do that. So we'll go ahead and grab both our bathroom and this wall. You're going to grab this mirror tool, draw axis mirror, and find the triangle midline that appears and drag it to one side or the other. Now we have both of our bathroom walls. Grab this one, change this to a non-load bearing wall, and then come back, and one of the last pieces is this hallway. So we know that this hallway is 3 feet from inside edge to inside edge. We also know that from this outside wall, this dimension here, outside of the main load bearing to the midline of the water heater closet is 5'9". So let's go ahead and draw those two pieces. And I'm going to do it a little bit differently. So I'm going to go in here, I'm going to do the non-load bearing wall. I know that it goes from back here to here, and then I have a second wall from here to here. I'm going to do a break command on this wall, on this interior bit, after we are done. So again, with our dimension, so we're going to do a dimension line. Tab until you grab the outside piece, and then you're going to do midline. Tab until you grab that. Tab until you grab the inside edge. So the first one we're going to do is going to be this 5'9". Second one is you're going to grab the wall, grab the highlighted blue dimension, and this is 3 feet. Okay. This bathroom wall needs to be pulled backwards to meet up with this. This one gets pulled backwards to meet up with that. Do a break or a split element in the middle. Escape on the keyboard. Pull this back. Click on this one. Pull this one back. Now on plan, the other thing to note is this one does not have a front edge. This one clearly has a door. So you can change this out if you want, or you can leave it as is. For this one, I'm going to go ahead and pull this wall backwards and leave this as an open-ended closet. For the other one, I am going to place a door there though. So I'm going to go ahead and delete these extra dimensions. I will chain the dimensions later. The other thing is having this closet in place in the proper location. And we will go ahead and finish dimensioning this one side. So grab your main dimension that you had made before. Do an edit witness line. So it's going to go wall center, wall center, wall center, wall exterior. There we go. So these two, these top two and these bottom two should match what is on plan. If they do not, make the adjustments. Grab your wall and change whatever blue dimension you need to do. I do not suggest changing, when you grab an interior wall, change the back dimension, not the forward dimension. And generally don't grab your exterior walls unless you really plan on moving those, because it can cause some issues. Now that we have those walls in, there is one last one. There is this little baby wall that is 2'3". So let's go ahead and draw that. It is not in line with anything. It's 8'9" forward of the back wall. So go back into architecture, do this. All right, so let's do the 8'9" dimension. We're gonna grab the one corner and just drag this wall across. Totally fine. Blue bubble, drag it forward. Grab this one, drag it forward. And then if you notice on plan, this is not a full wall. It is 2'3" out. So the way that I like to do this is grab this exterior wall and grab the edge of the wall here. There's that. And 2'3" and make it tiny. Again, I'm going to chain these dimensions. The other thing I'm going to go ahead and add, because there is a counter, is I'm going to center line a reference plane here just as a reference for later. All right, and there is all of the interior and exterior walls all set, ready to go. The last piece is to grab these, right click, do a select instance in the entire project, because I did forget a step. Grab every single one of your walls, and you need to bring these up to ceiling height. So the top constraint, change this to ceiling. Ground level will stay, and there you go. So on your elevations, that's how it should look as of right now. And in the next section, we will work on adding doors and windows, but that's how you draw all of the interior walls and exterior walls for this project. I will catch you guys on the next one.